Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australia for Revolution Radio on freedomslips.com. It's home to fresh, unadulterated ideas and conversations in the chat room, and a place to get your merch in the website. This is show number 475.
570 and 400. Who would have thunk
it? Every week it goes up. Wow, that's crazy.
By
one. It increments. It's incremental. Catch us on air, online, and on your smart device. So grab an app to listen anywhere or listen at home on a Grace Tabletop digital radio. You know, they owe me 470 radios. If you missed Solaris' show tonight, which was great, I caught most of it while I was preparing my dinner in the smoker. Oh, I bought a smoker on Friday. She had...
Rich man.
It was $40 on Facebook Marketplace.
Super rich man.
Super rich. That's rich. I didn't have to use someone else's. Okay, so Solaris' show, that threw me a bit. It was Cyberwitch Cafe with Montana Jordan and Nish, and they'll talk about witchcraft and magic. If you don't know who we talk about, who we are talking about when we mention Solaris, it only costs $5 a month and is a Patreon. Become a Patreon. It's what we ask you to do to access the archives. And it's great. You're supporting the station at the same time and supporting the hosts by listening to the station. That's really important. And if you like what you hear from any of the hosts, do support them. That is also us, Mickey and I. The Freedom Slips archives allow you to listen to her shows, our shows, on all the host shows. And yeah, do that because look, you're missing out. She has great guests, always a great show, and peace and love out to you, Solaris. She's an author, a doco maker, and she has a life experience longer than my arm. And I thought I had a number of lives that I've lived, but yeah, you really need to check her shows out and learn more. Mekki and I live in Australia. You can probably tell by my accent. Mekki's accent sounds a lot more international, to be honest with you. But
Australia is a fake continent.
Yeah, we're all crisis actors.
Free me.
Yeah, free me. Oh, look, it's New Year's Eve every day. Please kill me. So, because we live in Australia, we've researched and understood where we live in respect to the traditional owners of the land. And where I live, it is the 𝐫𝐶𝐶. And Mekki?
For me, it's the Iraq people here in beautiful Pemulwuy.
Beautiful downtown Pemulwuy. I live in Narara. So if you find the person in the chat room called Narara, that's me. Please just ask me questions if you need to, or make comments. And because we watch the chat go by sometimes a bit quick. So, you know, maybe do it in caps or something, you know, at Narara or something so we can see it. Or Mekki's Mekki. So no surprises there. And look, Mekki and I, we pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. And I was just doing my hand like a rapper. You know, when they make the points in their song and their arms outstretched and their finger points down, you know, with the mic. And I'm not holding the mic. That's my street cred.
You're so with it, man. You're hip. That's it.
The hip for the hop, for the hippity hop. Yeah, whatever.
Jump to the left. Woo-hoo.
It's just a step to the right.
Oh, it's space for radio that we want.
Put your hands on your hips. Now I'm stuck there, Mekki. Sometimes I feel like Eric Cartman, when I was talking about sailing, and he had to sing the whole song to himself. Very funny episode. Whenever they wanted to get him stuck, they would just say the first line and he had to sing the whole song to him. They're very funny. Now, what a week. If it's been anything, Mekki, it's been a week since we last spoke to everybody.
That's about 7 days in the old count. What?
It sure is.
Oh, yes.
That's the thing.
Oh, that's funny. No, thanks, SJ. I'm glad to be alive too. I tell you what, though, Dave, and I'm serious for a second here, right?
Go on.
I no longer wish to be right about anything ever.
But that's going to curse it. That's going to curse you now. You're going to be right for everything again. But
it's bad enough. I'll tell you a little story after the news. But look, I want to jump right into the one thing that bothers me the most. And Dave, as always, has meticulously prepared a whole raft of news. But I do want to jump into something, and that's India. I know it's only item number 2, but look, when this first came about this pandemic, and I'm not convinced it is that, and if you're not, then you haven't really been listening for the last 4 or 5 weeks. But we said, I remember I said for certain.
You said this. You said this repeatedly, Mickey. Watch out for India. It's going to go gangbusters.
And I hate to be right, because look, I
it's
understand
the real danger. Another quote.
It is. It is the real, it is, absolutely. And the reason for that is the way that the society in India is structured. I mean, everybody has got the right to their own thing. Okay, I can't tell anyone what to do. That's not my job at all. But the truth here is, we have now reached a point in India where we're seeing the real numbers. And the funny thing is this: I watched the commercial news as well, and in fact, I watch on SBS. Which is really great. They sent you the actual news from each country, so you can watch the German news from Germany, American news from America, etc., etc. And
I love that aspect.
Because I speak more than one language, I can actually get a bit more news than most people. But the point is, even the commercial and the mainstream news are saying that what's happening in India is only the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah,
right. It's only the tip of the iceberg. We don't have the real numbers. They're probably 6 to 8 times higher, both in the death rate, the infection rate. They're having now. I listened to an interview with a man from in Delhi. In fact, he said he runs a charity there, and he said we now have to pick up the dead from the road because they die in cars trying to get to a hospital or from hospital to hospital. So they're picking them up, and the crematorium. In India, it's a very common thing to cremate for the Hindus, but for the Christians and for the Muslim, it's not. But he's saying though both the Christians and the and the Muslims are cremating their dead and then have the ashes buried later because there's just they can't bury them fast enough.
There
right?
isn't. And I mean, there's a queue. Yeah. There's a queue to service the dead.
Yes, correct. And they're now expanding. So they've got these massive cremation plazas. Let's call them a plaza. Don't think of this as it's not a Western style cremation center. These are cremations that are open air cremations, right? And if you need the Ganges, then usually it's near the Ganges, and the ashes are then sort of pushed into the river.
Quite Viking style, Mickey.
Yeah, well,
Valhalla and a pile of wood. Yep.
Yeah, and with the
2,500.
The crematoria. It's an open air cremation. And there's scores and scores of cremations happening at the same time, but they're running out of space. So they're now doing it in the parking lot. And he said if it gets any worse, we'll do it in the street.
They'll soon run out of wood to burn.
Yeah. Well, they've run out of so they put them on platforms to burn them.
That's right.
That's absolutely true. And it's really, it is just, it is something it's unprecedented. They talk about tsunami of COVID, etc., whatever.
That's exactly one of the, yes, that's right. That's one of the news items, yeah.
But again, this is only the tip of the iceberg. So right now the tests are coming back 16% positive, but they believe that the real number of positivity is around 50%. 6 months ago, or thereabouts, Indian doctor went into one of the slums, and I don't want to lie, I can't remember if it was Calcutta or Mumbai. I really don't remember. I don't remember. But it was one of the slums of the mega cities. And he went in there just to
see are like how many 3 streets off the main road, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, pretty much. And he went in there and tested people, and he found that the vast majority of people living in the slums actually were infected with the virus. Right. And of course, nobody cares because these people don't exist in India, right? They're poor, and they exist on the I guess below the poverty line, barely surviving. But now, because there's so many of them, and they have contact with the middle classes and the upper middle classes, and that's what we're seeing now. The people in the middle classes, the upper middle classes, the upper classes, etc., or castes, I should say, they are now coming up positive. Because they're the ones that get tested. They're the ones that go to hospital. They're the ones that have health care. But even these people now cannot go and find a hospital bed. People are dying. They're running out of oxygen. And this is funny because apparently India is either the second or the third largest,
Yes.
or more prolific
Producer.
oxygen producer.
That's
Yeah, in
correct.
the world.
Yeah. That's
In
what I
the-
did
in
on
the
my
world.
study this week. Yeah.
It's nuts, right? So let's be very clear here. What's happening in India is a catastrophe. And if your country has anything to do with India, any travel to and from, shut it down today. Shut it down.
Completely
Because
shut
we
it.
haven't. In Australia, we've reduced it by 30%, but
Oh, yeah. The government, in a government voice. Well, you see, we're dealing with the issue, and we've reduced the quantity of people coming here.
So here's what's going to happen. I'll tell you what's going to happen.
Reduced. Yeah, good luck with that.
In 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks' time, we're going to have a massive lockdown in Australia.
Yeah.
Because infection rates are going to spiral out of control because we didn't shut down travel. People criticized Trump and a whole bunch of other people for shutting down travel with China,
Straight away,
which was the right thing to do. In fact,
it was the right thing,
in hindsight.
yes.
And the thing is, back then you can say, look, we didn't really know. And fair enough, that's a good excuse. We didn't know. All right, I get it, right? Now, we know. We know now. We've seen a whole year of this thing. And we have people, and the problem also is these are multiple variant strains as well coming out of India. And
one of the strains in particular in India right now is so severe that it has a really high admittance to hospital rate. So the first time the virus came around, and darker skin, the worse you are off. Not over there because it's not a race thing. It is genetic. There's something about the genes of someone either in like Africa or India, the subcontinent, as opposed to Caucasian. So in Italy, they had it too, or the olive skin or the Mediterranean skin, and they had it worse. But this strain currently has more hospital submissions. Originally, the first one was 90% basically didn't have to go to hospital at all. 10% of those who contracted the virus did have to, and then originally there was some great numbers in more mortality, right? This is different, Mackie. This is not only has India run out of oxygen, they're not using all of the appropriate Western treatments now in order to subdue the virus. I know they're well over capacity, and they're doing the best they can as a triage. They're absolutely dealing with it the best way they can now. It's like Mickey, I went to Bunnings the other day, right? This is like a Home Depot. And I tried to buy something. And as I'm buying it, the queue was so large that they started to call out people, are you just going to pay by tap and would you accept a receipt via email? I said, sure. Here I am with, holding a whole bunch of goods. My point being, that was a way of being able to treat the long queue in basically triaging me from the other people who weren't going to pay with tap and wanted to take a paper receipt out. They were pre-filtering the queue. What they're not doing in India is utilizing the drugs that we've now found to be effective. Also, because they're overwhelmed, this is the same as if you're in IT, this is the buffer overrun era, right? That's what I would consider. I see this, right? I see the world like the Matrix. Everything's data to me. Now, this is the thing. So the West has discovered that the true best treatments were pressurized oxygen, not just a mask breathing oxygen at normal air pressure, 1 bar. Forced the air in to the lungs, which are now inflamed, and they're swollen up, and so there's inflammatory medications, the dexa-metha-sone that they used in America and Australia when people who had gone critical. There's also anti-parasitic or parasite meds inver-mectin, mectin, and also the antivirals, the rem-demes-vir. So rem-demes-vir and the combination of these were very successful. And then they also found there was a steroid that was able to be used, which was, I think that's the dexa-metha-sone. Was it 𝐫𝐞𝐯𝐴? I forget now the name. But anyway, so we found that as the virus has come a whole year, we've seen the case fatality rate drop from like 68% of people who originally contracted it died because we just put our hands in the air. Don't know. Gave them oxygen, they still died. They ended up with blood clots. Their lungs became damaged. Their organs started to fail. They ended up with blood clots in their bloodstream. Plus, now we know that their sperm was affected as well. Right? So overall, it's just getting you from every angle when it goes critical.
Yeah. No, it's an insidious disease, and we still haven't got a handle on it. We don't know. We have an inkling of the long-term effects that Dave just pointed out. We don't know though because it hasn't been long enough.
No, we're living it. We're inside the study.
We're living it.
Yeah,
that's right. And in 5-10 years from now, or well, whenever this pandemic finishes, and it will finish at some point, we will look back and be able to do the math, do the statistical analysis, understand how many deaths were related, whatever else happened, what other defects we can look forward to within ourselves.
Yep.
And you know what is interesting? That you mentioned people of darker skin are more severely affected.
Yes.
Now, one of the we will talk about. I'm actually I don't know if we talk about this in the show notes, but there was one form of biological warfare that was outlawed completely, and there was the genetic targeting of specific peoples, because that's akin to genocide once it runs.
Woohoo!
We can.
Is that back on the table again?
Yeah, but look, just because sarin gas and mustard gas are outlawed doesn't mean anyone is not using them.
And they're not. It doesn't mean they're not researching it. That's right.
No. And there's actually this interesting show, Utopia, British. Don't watch the American version. Watch the British version. And this is actually exactly what happened. So they released this pathogen out into the world, and the final. Watch the show. Even if I tell you what happens in the end, it's still worthwhile watching.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, the chief scientist that was in charge of this depopulation agenda, and it was through disease and making people sterile. So what they did, they put these agents into the population to make them, to drop the birth rate, which ostensibly seems to be happening here as well. And
that's right.
The only people, which is really sort of a funny, ironic twist, not ironic, but it's a sort of a twist on history, because the scientist himself was a gypsy, right, or of gypsy origin. So the only people that were immune to that particular pathogen were people that had gypsy DNA or DNA that's only found in gypsies.
Yeah.
Everybody, I know, right? Whereas everybody else was severely affected, 99% or whatever it was, infertility for the rest of us. I'm not saying that's happening here with the gypsies, of course I'm not. But the point is that the thinking is there. People think these things, and to be honest with you, Dave, what the Nazis did was, compared to what we can do today, was completely inefficient. And no matter how efficient the Nazi death machine was, right, it still required people to actually be killed, and you have to be cremated, you have to transport them around.
Oh, but all of that, I know, and this is when we talk about things, we're not saying they're a good idea, right? Either way. But Meki's comparison here of all of the admin was the responsibility of the Nazis for that. What is this one? This is local. Yeah. This is local, right? Admin. It's been distributed. This is a distributed processing machine.
Yeah, and once it runs, right, and always assuming here. So the thing is this: the people that set this in motion, or the entities, or what you want to call them, the parasites, right? That set this in motion, you can be pretty sure that they have a broad spectrum antiviral protection. Maybe even a genetic makeup that doesn't let them be affected by this kind of thing. We've spoken about the extreme longevity and immortality of the elite before. Sorry, the parasitic class. I keep calling them the elite, Dave. The parasitic class.
Because Are they better than us? Than
No.
the bottom dwellers? No. And I think I'm really beginning to like your parasitic description rather than elite, because elite actually puts them up there.
Correct. In your mind. See,
In your
it's
mind.
funny how.
Yeah.
See, but this is where conspiracy theories we know have been infiltrated. The language that's being used, and the way things are positioned, and you split all these free thinkers like ourselves up into separate groups. You give them things to fight over. Oh no, it's UFOs. No, it's Bigfoot. Oh no, it's the Bermuda Triangle. No, it's the Nazca lines. No, it's whatever, right? The point is that is a complete waste of time, because it's all connected. These phenomena are all real. Okay, and let me say this here one more time. In each, let's call it paranormal occurrence, in each odd theory, if only one sighting, if only one occurrence, if only one manifestation is real, the entire thing is real. There's no longer a burden of proof, right? If you have even just one out of millions and millions of sightings and hundreds of thousands of other things that people find strange, etc., if only one is the real thing, that's it. It's a real thing now, right?
Yeah,
now
we're not saying the millions of things were real.
No.
Right? Because, mass hysteria comes into it, people misidentifying things, whatever it is, doesn't matter. Does not matter. If one's real, then it's real.
And video,
yeah,
right, does not lie unless it's been deep faked and altered with. But in some instances, I'm sure that's the case. But here, so you've got the combination of radar, you got radar blip data, you got lidar data,
yeah,
you've got video footage, you've got eyewitness accounts,
visual and infrared.
Yeah, visual infrared. You've got physical remaining evidence as well, right? Which of course is being downplayed significantly. And that's just a UFO phenomenon.
Oh,
and
Mickey, but they're not experts.
There's a whole raft of other
what
things.
do they know? They're not experts. They weren't trained in it. Even if you have a military expert who's a trained spotter, not a trained spotter, but a trained observer, you can't deny what they've identified. I remember I could tell an F-15, F-18, F-16. I could tell the what is it? SU branded planes, the Sukhovs, the Russian planes. I could tell the French made Phantoms. I could tell all of those when I observed my first UFO. Not saying it's alien. Just when I observed something that didn't, do anything all the other things do in the sky, and I remember I was still wrong. So, Mickey, one thing I want to point out here is the treatment of the people, and you said and I agree because I did the research and found the same thing. India is the largest supplier, or if not the largest, the second largest supplier of oxygen on the planet, right? So. Oxygen concentrators. Now, I've got a little connection to that because my daughter requires a concentrator rather than using bottled oxygen. Because 75% of what there is in, or 78% of the air we breathe, 21% is oxygen, 78% is nitrogen, and there's about 1% of other gases. So it is able to use osmosis and press the oxygen through. Or removing the nitrogen, and to be able to concentrate the oxygen down, and it increases the oxygen per cubic meter for being able to use as a respiration. So my daughter has one of those, and this is one of the things that it's disconcerting to watch India burn through so many bottles of oxygen. It isn't the correct use of using oxygen on a patient that has the virus, the SARS-CoV-2 virus. All of that, the West has learnt from it, and we don't do that. And you know how desperate they must be to burn through it. You said that the overwhelming, the tsunami of cases they have going through there right now, right? So one of the things that it's not over here. We just closed down the whole of the western side of Australia in lockdown because we had some people traveling. We had also someone who was in this week. We had someone who was in hotel quarantine, stayed there 2 weeks, left, and then came down with the virus after leaving, like then presented with the virus. So 2 weeks is not a sufficient amount of time. It should be 4 weeks. But they've just traipsed off through the country now, never to be seen again, these people with the virus, apparently. Just walking around. Newcastle, just up from me, I live halfway between Sydney and Newcastle. If you find that on Google Earth, you'll see the Central Coast as it's known. And I'm lucky that we live halfway between because it's kind of a little country town compared to the other two. And Newcastle, the other one, not Sydney, has now found sewage with the virus remains in it. So that's only just this week. Good luck. We'll be in lockdown any minute, no doubt, as a result, right? Because
2 to 3 weeks, 4 on the outside. That's my prediction.
That's right. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah, completely.
Yeah, 100%, mate.
Now,
100%.
with there being in India 350,000 new cases yesterday or 2 days ago, whenever these numbers come through, and my numbers are from the Johns Hopkins University that is accepted around the planet as tested and confirmed tested cases, right? Needless to say, every single week I feel like a broken record, but we must say it, that these numbers don't take into consideration the people who have not been tested or weren't tested or died before testing, died in the queue to get tested, died at home, too poor to get tested or too poor to travel or unable to travel. It doesn't have any of that. In Australia, when we only had 28,000 people, our university professors predicted there might have been 90,000 untested cases. Untested. Yeah. So you can imagine there'd be millions in India right now. Untested. 10 million.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the thing is this, I mean, so far, according to official figures, India has conducted 274 million tests, which is pretty good, don't get me wrong. That's a pretty good effort, right?
Yeah.
But the population is 1.4 billion.
So, billion's got to be.
It's not a quarter. It's about 20% that have been tested at this point, right? And like I said, the return rate is 16%. So if 16% of 1.3 billion or 1.4 billion, right? You're having close to 200 million people sick.
That's why the number's at only 16.6 million currently. Yes. Sick is hideously low. Comparatively. So, 𝐫𝐸, one of the things that this also alerted me this week, and that was that a young boy who was 2 years old, flew home to Australia from India this week, and he has, he has the SARS-CoV-2. He tested positive for the signs of the virus, which is COVID-19. Crazy that we're allowing people to fly. It's just beyond me. Oh yeah, no, the economy is more important. We'll just keep it all open, shall we? Because money. What?
Because money.
Money. Oh, money. Money is all that money's money. So that it brings me to the vaccine, right? And I hate to repeat myself. I really do. 𝐫𝐸, I hate to repeat myself. Vaxzevria. Just everyone to say that out loud again. Vaxzevria is the AstraZeneca vaccine. Has been rebranded to avoid bad press. No doubt is the thought behind that name change. And I've got friends and family who've both had the AZ or AstraZeneca vaccine. Look, I really struggle, 𝐫𝐸. I struggle with the vaccines right now, and from what I've learnt during the week, I was a big Pfizer guy. I've said it all along. Pfizer, Pfizer, Pfizer. I might prefer to have Moderna now. After saying, having the bandwagon for Pfizer for so long. I don't know. Look, just put me at the back of the queue. I'll be last. That's what I'll do. I'll be last, and you can all have the vaccine before me, and I've got no rush to, I'm not going to throw women and children behind me, right, to get it.
No. Same. 100%, absolutely. And it just, see, the thing is, we know what, we know that the fatality rate is, I think it's leveling around 3%.
It's 3.5. I've got it. Yeah. I've got it graphed.
Oh, good man.
Yeah, I'll put the graph up.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so 3.55%.
So is that a good thing? Of course not. It's a terrible thing. But you have to. We don't know what any of these vaccines will do to you long term. We know in the short term, if you're just unlucky enough, you might get a blood clot that might kill you. But that's a really small risk. Okay, that's a really, really small risk. And people got focused on it because it's a spectacular piece of news and etc. I get it, but it's tiny risk. What worries me are the long-term effects of these vaccinations, because we have no longitudinal studies. We have no idea what might happen. Okay, we know some of them cause blood clots. Okay, great, that's a short-term effect. What about the long-term effects here? We just don't know. And that's really the worry here, because I think they're all different as well. These are all different vaccines. They're not the same. They're made differently. Quite significant differences between these vaccines as well. So it's a huge. We are now living in a gigantic petri dish, Dave.
I know.
Where, let's try this. Oh no, let's throw some radiation on it. Oh no, you know what? Hey, pebbles. Let's throw some pebbles.
Oh no, the radiation's making it worse. And they turn into the Hulk. Human. Right?
Acid now.
Acid. I'm going to use real acid. I want to see goggles, people. So this is one thing, right? So rather than banning the vaccine because it came up with, 1 in 200,000 people so far statistically are having blood clots, and they're usually fatal. Well, let's only have issues. Let's just have warning. We'll issue warnings. That's what we'll do. And I'm the government, and we met with the vaccine, creator, and they've said that they're going to amend the warning leaflets with the term blood clots. Yeah, great, awesome. There's no more to see here. We've dealt with it. That's what we did. We dealt with it. Just roll on. Other countries, Mekki, like Italy, have said only those over 60 can have the AstraZeneca vaccine now. Australia still stands at 50. And others have made no call to unpause their rollout. They've paused it with the AZ vaccine. So, look, the concerns for me is it's so new that, like Mekki said, there's no longitudinal study, there's no long-term study of this, because we're in the middle of it. And when we have a look at the numbers, Mekki, when we're talking about how many people who have currently had the virus, that's 146 million. I can only imagine that those numbers are going to be so insanely large, because now that, there's the potential of 1.4 billion people in India getting the virus, how are we going to just open up our borders again? Mekki and I kept saying 2024 minimum.
Yeah.
It hasn't run its course. Every opportunity that the virus has to replicate is another opportunity for it to mutate. And that's the big problem.
And to be clear, this thing is mutating at a fairly rapid rate. Not only single mutations, but what we're seeing, which is really unusual.
Multiple.
And I urge you all to do your own multiple, double mutations, in the same virus mutation. So I urge you to do your own research to understand just how unusual that is. but it is happening. And of course, the larger the population, or the more people are exposed to the virus, the more likely, as Dave has pointed out, a mutation becomes, because it's just a numbers game, right? It is just a numbers game.
Yeah, if you said one in a million infections will result in, I just said if, right?
Yeah.
A mutation. Well, we've got 146 million right now, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So that's 146 opportunities to mutate. In my
100%.
example, using like the Dave equation, not the Drake equation.
But all the mutations we've seen, Dave, have been making the virus worse.
That is only because we can't test for the ones where it softens the virus,
true,
right? True. We don't count those because we don't see it. We can't see it. Correct. It doesn't become news.
Yeah. So just to the chat room, prawn.
Prawn.
Yeah, in the chat room. Let's ban Indians is not the answer, but the answer is to shut down travel with India. Or Brazil, for that matter, right? Any country that is highly affected, infections.
Yeah.
To double Dutch it here, but that's the answer. The answer is absolutely to shut down the borders, and because we cannot control the virus like we think we can. I mean, people are in quarantine, like Dave has pointed out. They're there for 2 weeks. Nothing presents. They're testing okay, and boom. All of a sudden, they're sick and infectious.
They're released to the public, and suddenly they've got the virus, but not from the public. They were.
That's why I'm saying.
Yeah. No, it was in them the whole time. It just didn't present.
Yeah, and now, in a couple of weeks' time, in 3-4 weeks' time, we will see a massive lockdown in Australia again.
Spikes.
So get your toilet paper now is what I'm saying.
Yes.
Get it now. Get a toilet paper now.
And for all the preppers, we told you so. We're okay. I wanted to ask Prawn if that person is able to confirm if that is a District 9 reference. Because if it is, it's very clever. And my hat off to you. So Meki, the last point that I had to make with that is around how many vaccines there are out there that are getting created. So I discovered this week that there are 269 candidate vaccines still being developed.
Yeah.
So if you look at the big four players, I think Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, and Moderna are the big four. In the West, then you've got the Russian-developed one, you've got the China-developed one, and then you've got a whole nother 263 on top of that.
Yeah.
Or 260, 62. So that's how many they're there, and there's 85 of them are currently being tested. Everybody is clamoring over each other as big pharma people.
Of course. It's
to
big money.
Sell 7.7 billion.
Yeah. It's big money. It's massive money. They've
never had this opportunity.
It's going to make people obscenely rich.
Yeah.
Because the thing is this: we've done polio vaccinations and others too, and smallpox, and they were successful, but they went over decades. It took decades to I guess eliminate those viruses. I mean, it's coming back here and there, but for the most part, we no longer really are living in fear of polio or smallpox. Not really. Like I said, but a decade. It didn't take a couple of years to do this. And the thing is this:
it wasn't developed and deployed within one calendar year.
Yeah, I know. But see, right now, this is really interesting. This sort of flipped it, and this is ironic. What normally happens in pharmaceutical circles, any new drug that's developed, any new vaccine is tested in Africa or in a similarly poor.
That's true.
World.
That's true. Okay? Yes.
So that's what happens, right? It's tested over there. Now with this one, right? Because it's so rampant and people are so fearful, it's tested on the rich. Because the rich are hoarding it, right? The rich countries, the top 20 countries. Yeah. I think there's only 20 countries making it, but the richest countries like in Europe, America, even Australia is not getting all the supplies it needs.
No, that's true.
The rich countries are the testing beds for this vaccine now, not the poor countries. So So if you took the long term and hoping that the virus isn't hopefully not so bad in Africa, etc., hoping, right, then they will eventually get a vaccine that might be quite good, which is really interesting to see that reversal, the flip of the normal pharmaceutical process of going to a poor country, testing medicine there. Oh, oops, it kills everybody. Let's go back to the drawing board.
No,
you know?
Yeah, it's like the release of mosquitoes created the Zika virus. But anyway, I'll be quiet. Yeah, quite. What? I think we have a cross line, Mickey. Someone just interjected with my voice, oddly enough.
Strange stuff.
Yeah. So look, this is the thing. I think given I'm not going to say what I learnt this week. Not yet. Not until I've been able to at least find out if that was current, if it was real, if the doctor is real. I'm doing some research right now, but I did see something this week which kind of alerted me and has put me at the back of the queue willingly. At the back of the queue for it. I know that my father's got it. He's had the AZ or AstraZeneca or Vaxzevria vaccine, and I've got some friends in other places who have had either that or the Pfizer vaccine. And you know what? I really just all I need to know is that we've put the effort into discovering what those individuals have and why they're different, and why their bodies decided to react the way they did. One thing, Mackie, that I have learnt, though, this week, and I think we've already spoken about this in it, that the virus season is more the lack of vitamin D season.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And if you can do this for yourself, ensure that you don't have a lack of vitamin D and, zinc, vitamin C, and vitamin D.
Just go on, finish your point.
That can't hurt you if you're taking them as supplements to ensure you have a good base level, right?
Your best defense against any ailment, disease, condition, whatever you want to call it, right? Sickness, disease, right? Is a healthy and functioning immune system. Eat a healthy diet. Drink a lot of water. Get enough sleep. If you're lacking vitamins, if you're deficient in minerals, take a supplement, right? Get an infusion if you need it. These are things that will protect you better than anything else. Because our bodies are quite miraculous in many ways. And if we are healthy enough, right? I mean, it's not a guarantee. Nothing in life is ever guaranteed. But you have a much better chance if you are fit. So you should exercise moderately, right? Get your body moving. Get the blood flowing, right? Get the right mix of nutrients into your body. Support yourself. If you don't, then it's on you. This is funny. We talked about this immortality, Dave, right? Let's say immortality is around the corner. Here it is. Boom. You take this pill. It'll reactivate your telomerase. Your telomeres are being rebuilt, etc., etc. So you're actually restoring yourself, and you're going back to a stage where you look like in your mid-20s, right? Because that's possible, guys. Everybody.
That's right.
We can reverse cell death. We can reverse our DNA shortening, etc.
The error correction can come back on cycle again.
Correct. However, if you choose to pump your body full of drugs and alcohol and eat the wrong food and never exercise, you will die. Okay, of something, because it's one thing to have senescence or cell death turned off. So let's say cell death is turned off. Beautiful, that's awesome, right? The incidences of cancer should go down significantly if you do that, but you can still die. So you really do have to live a fairly healthy lifestyle. And I think that's what we're talking about in ancient myths. We're talking about manna or ambrosia, the food of the gods, and I think that's Mufkut, and I think
that's
a large part of it is white gold powder.
That's correct.
I really do. And I think that these people that achieved, practical immortality, if you will, at least, extreme longevity, no one is going to survive the heat.
700 years is pretty reasonable. They're good numbers.
Sorry, Prawn, that is correct, but that's an overreaction of the immune system, right? That is triggered by the virus, and we don't know why that happens yet. Okay, those storms that Prawn is just saying something that what kills people is or can kill people is an overstimulation or an overreaction of our own immune system to the virus. Right? That's true. That is absolutely true. But I still maintain, if you are healthier, you have a better chance of withstanding not just this virus, but anything. So you are less likely to suffer severe consequences, right? And we don't know what triggers, and this is not just in healthy people. The cytokine storm is triggered.
The cytochrome.
Is triggered. I think that's a different term. It's close though. It's close. It's triggered in different people, right? And it's not clear why it happens quite yet. Cytokine. It's a cytokine. CYTOKINE storm.
Cytokine.
Storm.
Cytokine. Yeah. Yes.
Essentially, it's a common complication, but not only of COVID-19 and flu, but of other respiratory diseases caused, by coronaviruses such as SARS and MERS. So it happens in other things, and it's an over reaction.
It also happens in writer's disease, which I had.
Yeah, that's correct. Cytokine storm. That's right. So. Yeah, but I still maintain if you're a healthy individual living a healthy lifestyle, you have a better chance to fight off anything, including this thing. Sorry.
Good on you, SJ.
But you were making
a... Look, so my point here is, look, we've known, if this is not an argument against, it's not, for or against, but some extremely fit people live on a razor's edge of failure.
Sure.
Right, so we know that we've seen some people who have, superior, the world's best athlete, just come down and crushed by a simple virus, and that's because they're living on the edge. If you're living way below the line that we should be living in, then you're more susceptible. If you're in the middle, in the mid-pack, then you're going to be better off overall. So don't be at either of those extremes. If you are, make sure you take doctor's advice.
But so Dave said something that's absolutely 100% correct, because top athletes, they're pushing this system to the limit of what is humanly possible. Mm-hmm. But by doing so, they actually, it's the reverse of what you would expect. So that's why I'm talking about moderate exercise, because extreme exercise actually makes you weaker.
Middle of the bell curve.
And in fact,
that's where you want to be.
Some exercises actually detrimental to you, right? You're starting to lose muscle mass, and you're starting to actually hurt your body if you're a high performance athlete. That's why a lot of athletes at that level take supplements, and sometimes illegal supplements, because your body cannot actually sustain and maintain that level of physical effort. It's not possible. It just isn't, right? But yeah, it's a finely balanced mechanism. I do believe, though, that the fact that it affects darker skinned people disproportionately, as well as people with underlying morbidity disproportionately, these are things I think were engineered into it, Dave. All right.
Yeah.
Let's get rid of all those. I mean, come on. You know Cecil Rhodes, guys. You see all these people that are Rhodes scholars. Mm-hmm. Do you know what a Rhodes scholar is? A Rhodes scholar is a scholar that gets this, what's it called? Not a stipend. It's, what's the word? When you get your study paid for. Either way, it's like a free college, right? So it's
not a scholarship, right?
Scholarship.
Scholarship, okay.
Right? It's a Rhodes. Cecil Rhodes was one of the most racist people to inhabit the 19th century. The country, Rhodesia, was named after him. His Africa policy was horrific, right? So let's be very clear. Who gives out? This guy gives out. Well, he's dead, of course, now, but clearly the Rhodes scholarships still exist.
Yeah.
And look at who is a Rhodes scholar out in the world. Okay, so racism.
Would you want to be associated with that? Or probably not.
Well, no.
Like it has its own. It has its own. There's obviously benefits and a gloss over of all of the bad things, which makes it sound like a great proposal.
And they're very clever, because you find the token dark-skinned person or the token Asian person within the Rhodes Scholar system.
Yeah,
you do find them, right? They're absolutely there. But it's like, how can I put this best? It's like the clan putting on a bake sale at an integrated school. Right? That's what that is. Okay.
Wow. So Meki, the gain of function research that was obviously banned by Obama and continued unabated in other countries and funded via various methods. I'm not going to name anyone. Seems entirely the cause of a leak. Now, I watched a study on leaks, even though we've only got 3 minutes, a study on viral leaks. And this came from, it was at BBC or some, not RT, but it was pretty middle of the road, kind of what you would imagine mainstream media to be. And they were reporting on a study that was how likely leaks have been and how likely they are to occur in and across the globe as far as viral research is concerned. And they said that it was so rife and hidden at the same time that it was suggested that all gain-of-function research be just canned. Just stop it globally, because of the risk is way too high. Now, this story came out this week. One of the stories that I'm following, and this is one of them. And I was kind of surprised, because I thought, that had been under the carpet for so long that no one knew that it was, officially known to be a thing. But there it is. When you hear that, actually there was a research project into it, and they deduced and even put it up to the governments to say, you've got to ban this. It's really bad. It's going to go, pear-shaped on you. And, no, it's fine. No, big pharma's paying for me, right? As a politician, we just continue it, right? It's great. Yeah. Let's just keep that going. Yeah. So, in parallel to the news items that you hear that the virus wasn't leaked from a lab, this one is heavily leaning on, it just seems exactly like it. It just seems to be the case.
Let's be very clear again, and this is taking you take the big picture now, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've been talking about this for a long time now, Dave. You and I, on the radio for 10 years or thereabouts, and before that, certainly much longer. You and I, we've known each other since over 20 years now.
Yeah, that's right.
But ultimately, you do have to take a step back. You can't look at this in isolation, and that's what the show cycle is about. In the second hour, we'll go into it. But the death of the microbiologists, okay, all the test cases that went up, again, the Agenda 21 and all the other things that are floating about in the ether out there, right? What is the best way to depopulate a planet?
I think they might have hit the nail on the head with that one. Look, this is David Mackey's Shiny Side Out. This is the end of the first hour. There is another hour to come, just after a short break. Catch us again if you're watching on YouTube. Like, share. Please share. Like, share, and subscribe. We'll catch you in a new stream at the other end of this hour, at the top of the hour, okay? Take care. Donate while you've got on the break.